Hello again, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for my video on the improvements tracker. In January and February, I was using a tracker that was a bit new to me, which allowed me to track my mood, overall health, and a way to improve those as part of one tracker. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the inspiration for the improvements tracker, or at least where I found it, looking at my two improvements trackers in particular, and then talking about some of the different things and ways you could include an improvements tracker in your journal. As most of this video is going to be flipping through past journals, there won't be a lot of equipment I'm using, but as per usual, any that I do is linked in the description box below. The first and so far the only place that I've seen the improvements tracker was from the Monster of Stationery's Instagram account. The way these are normally set out is by having one page dedicated to each of the boxes that are filled in daily as part of the tracker, and then the page on the right is set aside for the key. Each daily box is separated into 3 sections, with one for tracking mood, one for health, and one for what's called the improvement. This improvement section is the one thing that you could do the next day or in the future to improve either your mood, health, or both. The cool part about a tracker like this is that when it comes to the end of the month, or maybe after a couple of months, your tracker would allow for a clear picture of what you need to do in order to take better care of yourself. Having the mood, health, and improvement sections together can allow you to spot patterns in how these 3 things relate. So for example, you might find that on all the days you said that you needed to move more as part of your improvement, those could also be the days that you had a lower mood. Some of these links would kind of go without saying. So for example, the days that you listed tired for your health section are probably also going to be the days that you listed sleep more for your improvement. But there may also be some unexpected correlations that you can pick out from this kind of a tracker. In terms of the improvements trackers that I've used, I've set these up to be square style trackers, so with concentric squares that have enough dividing lines to form a section for each day. Each concentric square houses one of the things I'm tracking, so either my mood, health, or the improvement that I've listed. Rather than having the key on a separate page, this style of tracker actually allows for me to have enough space to put this down the bottom. In the interest of simplicity, I rated my mood on a scale of good to bad, rather than thinking about it more in terms of set moods like happy, bored, angry, etc. But those are also a way that you could set that section up. For my health section, I had a bit more specific categories. So I had good, tired, a stomachache, headache, joint aches, and then for when I was feeling particularly bad, I had the sick category. In the improvement section, I have getting more sleep, drinking more water, moving more, eating less food, eating better food, and then just relaxing. As you can see, each of these sections was set up using the same colour scale, and that was mostly done because I think it makes this tracker look a bit more cohesive. Of course, you can always have different colours for each of these, but that can sometimes make the page look a little bit busy. For February, I did the exact same thing. However, the colours that I was using on this one were set up to go with my ocean theme for the month. In terms of how I actually set up these trackers, I went through this in detail as part of my January Plan With Me video, a link to which is in the cards above. But here's the relevant section now. After jotting down some post ideas, it's onto my one small thing and improvements tracker. To start, I'm again doing a vertical list of each day in January and setting up a tracker on the right-hand page. For this square-shaped tracker, you can see I first went in and put down some dots to guide myself. For this tracker, I'm using a 10 centimeter square. To draw on my guidelines, the first thing I do is find the center of that square, so I'm looking for 5 centimeters in from either side. Because there are 31 days in January, the easiest way to divide this square up is into 32 pieces. This also gives me a space for a key or legend for the things that I'm tracking. For 32 pieces, I'm going to want 8 pieces along each side of my square. To add in the guidelines, I start at the center piece, and I go 4 out, and by this I mean 4 squares worth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I put a dot. and I'm going to do this on each side. So these dots in particular are going to allow me to cut the square into 4 pieces. But 4 isn't quite enough, I need to get to 32. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to put a dot on each of the dots within that smaller square. So you can now see that if I drew a line from the center point to each of those dots, I'd cut this up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments per side. So 8 times 4 being 32. I personally, however, don't like to use the center dot as a guiding point. I instead like to draw myself another dot point outside of these ones that I can also use to help line myself up. So first we went out by 4, next I like to go out by 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again doing that on each side. And here we're going to do the same thing as we did in this inner square. However, instead of doing it for every single dot, we're going to do it for every second dot. So, yes, no, yes. No, yes, no, yes, no, yes. This one's in line with that one, so we stop. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. And so on and so forth. With all of the guide points in, it would then be time to go and rule all these up in pen. To make sure that I start and stop these lines that come out from the center in the right place, I'd first go in and rule the outside borders, and also the inside border where I want that line to stop. Then you just go and make sure that you line up the dots for each of those segments properly, and then rule your lines through. I'm breaking this tracker up into 5 concentric squares, which leaves a track that is 2 grid spaces across for each habit. In having 4 tracks left by these concentric squares, I have the outer space for the day number, and the 3 inner spaces for the things that I'm tracking, which are my mood, health, and then what I can do to improve those things. Having these 3 categories and the name Improvement Tracker was inspired by the Monster of Stationery, and there's a link to their Instagram in the description box below. So the way that I've set up my improvements tracker is definitely not the way that everybody would want to do that. On this page I have some of the different ways you could track each of those 3 categories. The ones at the top here are relatively simple and kind of neutral, so it could easily be used with any theme that you have for the month. The ones at the bottom, however, are a bit more doodle styled, and these could be used to make a more fun and decorative tracker. With each of the styles I have on this page though, we have 3 main sections, so one for the mood, one for health, and one for the improvement. For the styles I have at the top, these 3 sections are fairly easy to distinguish, but for the doodle style ones, these are a little bit harder. What I'm doing here is just going in and colouring each of these 3 sections that I had in mind when doing the doodles, so that you can see what they might look like when all filled in. I specifically chose these doodles because they do have 3 distinct sections. Of course, you could really use any kind of doodle you wanted here, and then just fill it in with the colours from your key. In terms of the 3 things that are tracked as part of the improvements tracker, the subcategories that you have in each of these are completely up to you. So as I spoke about, when I come to do my mood, I like to do this on a scale just because I find that a little bit easier. However, you could specify your moods: happy, sad, excited, nervous. I just find that there end up being quite a lot of different ones you could use, but if you can narrow them down to something manageable, that's totally a viable option. In terms of rating your overall health, you could of course do this one on a scale as well, or you could use specific subcategories like I do. You could treat this one a little bit more like a symptoms tracker, especially if there were certain symptoms that you had that cropped up a lot. And then again, for the improvements, these are completely up to you and should be suited to what you could do to improve your overall health and well-being. Some ideas, like the ones that I had: getting more sleep, drinking more water, eating better food, moving more. but you could also put on other self-care items that are more specific in helping you feel better. Thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you had any thoughts, comments, or feels, please do leave them in the comment section below. If you hadn't already and wanted to, feel free to subscribe to my channel to see the videos I release every Thursday and Sunday, and I'll be back again on Thursday with another weekly plan with me. Until next time, bye!